We begin, though, with a busy day of primary elections as voters in 3 states head to the polls today.
In New York, a special election in a swing district could measure the mood of the nation ahead of the November midterms. Also in New York, specifically New York City, 2 powerful House Democrats are pitted against each other, competing for the same seat because of the state's new congressional map. And in Florida, where Republicans have won a series of statewide nail-biters in recent years, Democrats will pick their candidates to face off against 2 high-profile GOP incumbents. Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Marco Rubio will examine the possible matchups there. We're covering all of that with NBC News correspondents Dasha Burns and Shaquille Brewster and NBC News political editor Mark Murray, who we will hear from in just a moment. Dasha, let's start with you in New York, that special election in the Hudson Valley. This is really the first competitive House race since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. So what should we know about this race and really this district?
Yeah, Joe, if you're looking for some clues about what might happen in November, come here to the Hudson Valley, to the 19th district, which extends up to Albany, because this really is a bellwether race. It's not a primary like the rest of the races we're going to be talking about today. It is a special election to replace the lieutenant governor's position. And it is a race between Democrat Pat Ryan and Republican Mark Molinaro. Now, the reason that this is such a hotly watched race by the nation, as you said it there, it is really the first competitive congressional race since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and it might be the very last bellwether we have before November. And here, what we're really looking at is to see which party has the edge, right? Whether it's going to be Republicans propelling voters to the polls on Biden's unpopularity, on the pain of inflation, or whether Democrats can really ride the wave of frustration over the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade. The Democratic candidate, Pat Ryan, has really put abortion at the center of his campaign. His signs read "Choice is on the ballot." Yesterday, he gave us a comment saying that the stakes could not be higher for our community, our country, our democracy, saying that it is absolutely essential that we put choice at the center of our campaign. Mark Molinaro, on the other hand, the Republican opponent here, he has very much downplayed abortion. He is instead focused on the economy. All of his messaging has focused on the lack of success Democrats have had in fixing the inflation problem. And so that question, is it inflation? Is it abortion? What is going to drive voters is at the heart of this. Whoever wins this election is really only going to serve for a handful of months before we once again have another election. The overarching theme in New York right now really is redistricting, but this could answer a whole lot of questions about what is going to animate folks in November, Joe.
All right, so Dasha, let's talk about one of those primaries in Manhattan. We've got 2 top Democrats battling to keep their congressional careers alive. Representatives Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney. Each holds a powerful House committee, leads a powerful House committee. They have both been in office since 1992. Quickly on this one, who has the edge right now? Do we know?
Yeah, I mean, look, either way, this isn't great for Democrats, and that's why I say redistricting is really kind of the big story here, because it has mashed some districts together. It has created entire new ones. And either way here, a longtime Democratic career is going to come to an end tonight. It's likely that Nadler has a slight edge because the third newcomer candidate has run against Maloney before and will likely pull voters from her. But it's going to be interesting to watch. And regardless, Democrats are going to see a loss in Congress today, Joe.
All right, let's bring in Shaq. He's in South Florida for more on the governor's race there. We have a former Republican governor, Charlie Crist, now running in the Democratic primary against Florida's Agriculture Commissioner, Nikki Fried. The winner will then try to unseat incumbent Republican Governor Ron DeSantis this fall. Shaq, what can you tell us about this one?
Well, we know first polls are open. They just opened up past couple of minutes ago. They'll be open until 7 p.m. later today. And we do know that before we even got to this point, more than 2 million voters have cast their ballot either by mail or absentee voting. And this will be the conclusion of this contentious primary race that we've been watching at the gubernatorial level to take on Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. You set it up a little bit there, but on one side you have Charlie Crist. He's a Democratic representative, but he was the former Republican governor governor of Florida back in 2006. He is someone who has had to defend that record as a Republican in this Democratic primary, specifically when you're talking about the issue of abortion and some of the appointments he made as governor to the Supreme Court. He's had to defend that record against Nikki Fried. She's the Agriculture Commission here. She is someone who is the only Democrat elected at a statewide level in Florida currently serving in office. She says she represents something new and would be that bigger contrast to Ron DeSantis. I want you to listen to what those two candidates told me about their closing message earlier this week.
I am ready for this fight, ready to take him on, and we'll make sure that we have a winning message. We're going to pull over Republican women, independent women, and they're going to vote to have the first female governor of the state of Florida.
We've got to beat Ron DeSantis, and I can beat him. I mean, I've been the governor. I've been the attorney general and fought for civil rights. I've been the elected commissioner of education and fought for our teachers. That's the difference. Electability and experience. I offer both, and a good heart. That's what Florida needs and deserves.
You hear that intense focus there on Ron DeSantis. Both of those candidates acknowledge that what they will fight and what they will see, that battle ahead in November, is going to be a contentious one, and it will be a tough one. Ron DeSantis is a popular governor here. He polls at above 50%. When you look at his approval ratings, he has that national profile as a potential 2024 presidential contender, and he has more than $130 million in the bank. So despite whoever wins out of this Democratic primary, whoever comes out of it and is nominated by the Democratic voters here, they will have a tough fight ahead as we look ahead to November.
And Shaq, let's quickly talk about the Senate race there in Florida. Democrats want to oust the incumbent, Senator Rubio, who's seeking his third term. Recent polls suggest Congresswoman Val Demings has a shot to do that if she wins her primary today. What should we know about this one?
Yeah, Val Demings, she is up for her primary right now. She has Democratic challengers as she seeks to take on Marco Rubio, but most political observers say that she is far ahead in that race, that they're not serious challengers. She will likely be the Democratic nominee to take on Senator Marco Rubio. And you mentioned those polls that we've seen. I'll tell you, people on both sides of the aisle have cautioned us from looking too much at those polls. You know, one thing that people say is that this is Florida. The race is going to be tight no matter what. We do know that Val Demings does have some advantages at this point. She has been one of the best fundraisers that we've seen, not just here in Florida, but really the entire country, with $47 million that she's raised for her campaign. She's a former police chief. She's a congresswoman out of Orlando area. She was one of the contenders for President Biden's vice presidential nominee. So she has that profile. She has the ability to raise some money, and we expect that race to be a close one once we get through today's primary.
Shaq Brewster and Dasha Burns setting the table for a big day at the polls. Thank you both.
For more on today's elections, let's bring in NBC News political editor Mark Murray. Mark, good morning. So there's another House race in New York today that really highlights the battle within actually the Democratic Party. So New York's 17th district, it's actually just north of us here in the city. We have Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, the chair of the Democratic Congressional Committee, competing against a progressive state senator, Alessandra Biagi. What will you be watching for there today?
Yeah, this is one of those types of progressive versus establishment primaries that we've seen throughout this entire primary season. You end up having Sean Patrick Maloney as the favorite in this contest, but he ended up kicking up controversy because with the state's new redistricting map, there was almost a game of musical chairs, and Sean Patrick Maloney said, hey, I'm going to pick the New York 17th district, and that left some other members of Congress, including Mondaire Jones, a Democratic member from New York, looking for another district where he's running in New York 10 and could very well end up losing today in that really crowded race.
Yeah, let's talk about redistricting. So staying here in New York, I mean, today's election was actually supposed to happen back in June, but it had to be pushed back after a judge just tossed out an early district map. They said it was being unfairly drawn to benefit Democrats at the time. So as recently as a few months, I mean, you have these sitting members of Congress who aren't even sure if their district is going to exist anymore. I mean, how's that confusion impacting today, what we'll see from voters, and then also what does it mean for Democrats in particular who are looking to keep control of Congress, who sort of had that map denied?
Yeah, well, expect a low turnout because this is, for a lot of New Yorkers, their second primary, and this is actually happening in just the dead of August. So that's one impact. The other was that Democrats really tried to kind of go for the gusto with a redistricting map as they control the legislature as well as the governor's mansion, and to be able to pick, maybe pick up an additional 3-4 House seats in what was going to be a very challenging year. But as you ended up mentioning, that redistricting map, which was very aggressive, was ruled unconstitutional, was thrown to a special master who ended up writing new district lines that were actually less favorable to the Democrats, that force a member-on-member races, as Dasha was just talking about, as well as that whole system where you were having this kind of game of musical chairs with Democratic members of Congress. And so sometimes you go for the gusto and sometimes it backfires. So we ended up seeing that for New York Democrats.
Not only is it the dead of August, Mark, I think it might be about 100% humidity today. So that might keep some people from waiting in a long line. Also, while I have you, I do want to ask you about Oklahoma. We have 2 runoff elections today involving both Senate seats, actually. What should we watch for here?
Yeah, let's don't forget about the folks in Oklahoma who are having runoffs today. The top one that I'm watching for is for the Republican side in the United States Senate race. This is to end up replacing James Inhofe, who ended up deciding to announce his retirement. This is between Markwayne McMullen, a Republican member of Congress from Oklahoma, as well as T.W. Shannon, a former House state House leader. And Mullen ended up getting 44% in this race earlier. That was below the 50% needed to avoid a runoff, but he is the favorite going into tonight's runoff.
All right, Mark Murray, as always, thank you.
Now to the extreme weather stretching across the South this morning. Millions of people from Texas to Mississippi are under flood alerts with another day of downpours. In Dallas, a summer's worth of rain battered the city in just 24 hours yesterday, setting off major flash flooding. Texas officials also confirmed the storm's first casualty, a 60-year-old woman whose car was swept away by floodwaters. NBC News senior national correspondent Jay Gray joins us now from Shreveport, Louisiana, which is also bracing for heavy rain. So, Jay, we know a flood watch has been issued for you there in Shreveport. What's it like where you are right now, and what are authorities doing to prepare there in Louisiana?
Yeah, some heavy rain overnight, Joe. It's let up just for a bit right now, but we've looked at the radar. More is on the way. We could see as much as 6 inches in some areas as we get through this day. And look, just a few weeks ago, you and I were talking about the drought and the extreme heat conditions here. Now we're talking about what have been flooding rains across this region, and rains that are going to continue as you talk about people here bracing, getting ready. Of course, they're used to foul weather here in Louisiana and understand what that rain could mean. So a lot of people have things prepared to perhaps lose power for a couple of days, and really just to have the food, the water, the things they need to be ready for this storm. It's been a rough 24 hours across the region, as you mentioned, and again, it's not over at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, speaking of the rough 24 hours for the region, we saw those incredible pictures of flooding in the Dallas area yesterday. What's the latest from Texas? Is the worst over there?
Well, the worst is over in Dallas, but boy, it was bad. I mean, you want to talk about rain. As you said, they got a full summer's worth of rain in just 2 days. They're breaking all kinds of records. You had more than 150 high water incidents that police and firefighters were called on. A lot of those people whose cars were swept away by the water. We know in one of those instances, unfortunately, a woman who was on the phone with her family at the time she was swept away in her car did not survive. Today will be cleanup day in the Dallas area. They'll start to work with a break in the rain and try and get cleared away some of the things they can. So many communities dealing with water inside homes that really just trashed several of the communities there. Texas as a whole is going to see more rain, more to the east and to the south. So look for some potential problems around Waco and the state capital of Austin. They could see a lot of the heavy rain today.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Stay safe.
So when will some of these areas see some relief from the heavy rains?
Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us with the forecast. Hey, Michelle.
Hey there, guys. First of all, Jay did such a good job with that forecast, and he's exactly right. Eastern Texas will see some rain today. Dallas getting a break, but there's portions of Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama that will see rain over the next couple of days. We do have images, though. So many videos and images of flooded waters in Dallas yesterday. It was a tough day there for so many. We had water in apartments. We had submerged cars. We had people being rescued from cars. It comes fast. It comes furious. Never drive through water. You can never understand how tall it is. And also, it's fast and furious. We also had flooding out of Maryland as well. That was a separate storm system that brought the rains to portions of the Northeast. Much needed rains, but still, it came very fast. It came furious. It seems like portions of Maryland have gotten so much flooding this summer season, and they're continuing to see that. Look at all that water just rushing so fast. And even portions of New Jersey, the Jersey Shore, and also Somerset, New Jersey saw some flooding as well. So let's talk about today and then what we expect over the next couple of days. We do have 9 million people still impacted by a flood alert, whether it's a flood watch, that's in your green, so stretching from Texas into Louisiana, Arkansas, and into Mississippi. Now, we do have one flash flood warning. These are popping in and popping out. A flash flood warning, meaning a flood is happening right now. So they're going to come in and out as we go throughout the day. But look at all this rain still falling. This is a very slow-moving system. It has a lot of moisture with it. And this is what we're going to be seeing as we go throughout the next couple of days, because it's not going to go very far. So we're seeing those darker colors once again, the yellows, the reds, the oranges. Those are the brighter colors. It really is just telling us that those are the torrential downpours. Even seeing some lightning, hearing some thunder as well. And this is a bullseye where we expect to see the heaviest rain. So portions of southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, into portions of Mississippi as well. But Alabama, you're going to see some heavy rain as well. This is the setup. It's the same system that brought that rain to Texas yesterday, moving ever so slowly to the east. That's part of a climate connection where patterns start to move slower. And then we can't really just move them out quickly, and they have a lot of moisture with them. So we're seeing that sponge being wrung out. We're seeing that heavy rain falling. So that slow-moving front is moving to the east. It's bringing that threat of rain to Louisiana and also to Mississippi, and then moving very slow on Wednesday. We're going to see more showers and storms erupting in the southeast, right along the Gulf Coast, inching towards the southeast with high rainfall rates and areas of flooding. We could see rainfall rates 2 inches, 3 inches per hour, and that's what we saw yesterday, and that was a problem. We saw rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches, and we saw 12 inches in about a 6-hour period, most of that coming in a 3-hour period. So that's a setup for today. Rainfall forecast anywhere from 2 to 4 inches, but isolated amounts up to 6 inches in some spots, especially where you see that bullseye, kind of where I told you before, southern Arkansas, portions of Louisiana, and also into Mississippi. We do have that flash flood risk, so we have a flood risk and a flash flood risk. So your flash flood risk, that's where we see the #1 amount of deaths when it comes to weather-related deaths. And this is what we really need to concentrate on today. Where you see this pink here, that's your moderate risk. I mentioned a few days ago, we hardly ever get a moderate risk, but I think this is the 4th day straight where we're looking at a moderate risk. That's in the pink there. Alexandria, you're in on that too. Just to the east of Shreveport, but still, you want to heed any warnings in your area and just really pay attention to any flash flood warnings that come into your area. So as we go towards Wednesday, not moving very far to the east. You kind of notice it's in the same area. So it's going to become a little bit stationary, this front that's bringing this rain. So portions of Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas, once again, Jackson, Alexandria, and Hattiesburg, also Lake Charles, you're going to get some pretty heavy rain as well. So temperatures, we do have rain-cooled temperatures because we do have the clouds in place, the showers in place, also the storms. So temperatures well below normal in these spots. We're looking at temperatures in the 70s, the 80s, 5 to 15 degrees below what is average. So we get a little relief in terms of the temperature. Shreveport today, 82 degrees, 78 degrees in Jackson. And then by tomorrow, because we have those clouds still in place, we're going to see a cool day tomorrow as well. Back to you guys.
That is a slow-moving system. All right. Thank you, Michelle.
All right. Thank you. Now, this morning, there's fresh fallout from the FBI search of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. On Monday, Trump's legal team filed a lawsuit asking a judge to reveal the, quote, shockingly aggressive search. The filing calls on the judge to appoint a special master to oversee the seized documents. NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos joins us now for more on this. Hey, Danny, good morning. So first, walk us through just some of the key points of this filing. I mean, I just said that word, special master. What exactly is the role of something like that, and why does Trump's team want one to be appointed?
Trump's team wants a special master to be appointed instead of what the government uses. It's called a filter team. It's basically this idea that the government takes attorneys that are not working on this particular case, isolates them, and then gives them these documents. And they're supposed to be like a wall between the investigating attorneys, and they're supposed to be kind of neutral and look through things like privileged documents and not taint the investigation. That's the theory. I've had them used in my cases. I'm not wild about them because I don't necessarily trust the government to independently review documents and not tell the government, their buddies, what's going on. But here's the thing. They're asking for a filter team in a situation where they're probably not going to get one. They do cite a case from the Southern District of New York that did use a filter team, where the judge ordered a filter team, but that involved a search of an attorney's offices, and that is a very special situation. This really boiled down is just a search warrant executed on a home and an office. But I just have to add an asterisk. Take that rule book and take everything I've said, throw it right out the window, because the rule book has already been thrown out the window in this case. The idea that the affidavit of probable cause is even in play means we're playing by different rules. This is not the sort of thing that a judge normally even considers unsealing.
Okay, so that's exactly what I want to ask you about. So first, let's talk. The judge who signed off on the search is just, first of all, doubling down on his decision to authorize it. And he did reveal a little. He said there was, quote, probable cause that evidence of multiple crimes would be found. But then he also suggested he may not unseal much, if any, of the search affidavit. First, what do you make of that quote we got from him saying this possible evidence of crimes? And why would he not unseal some of it?
Probable cause that there's evidence of criminality at the location is the constitutional requirement for issuing a search warrant. So no surprise there, because that's what he would have had to find to issue the search warrant in the first place. But now it sounds to me like the judge is just clarifying that, hey, look, I'm not going to release this entire affidavit of probable cause. I might not release anything that is even helpful to anybody. It might be all blocked out by redactions. And I think that is probably the correct path, because there really is a risk. And this is coming from a defense attorney. I would love to read all kinds of affidavits of probable cause as soon as I could. But I do understand that releasing them reveals information, not just about the investigative path, but about people who aren't even considered to be charged, who are just witnesses. It could compromise their safety and compromise the safety of agents working on the case. So not likely. I just don't think we're likely to see a lot of this affidavit of probable cause released. It'll be all blocked out, use up all the toner in your printer when you try to print it out. Just be one big black. You know, when you get it and it's still wet from all the toner on there, it's going to be just like that.
All right, so maybe not that helpful anyway. Danny Ceballos, thank you so much. Always good to see you.
New this morning, a suspect is in custody in connection with a pair of deadly shootings in the heart of Atlanta. Police say gunfire erupted in two different locations yesterday afternoon, with reports of people being shot. That prompted fears a possible active shooter was on the loose. But police say a female suspect was arrested without incident at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. They now believe the shootings were not random, but rather the victims were targeted. Officials say a third victim who was injured is recovering in the hospital this morning.
Now in Arkansas, a civil rights investigation is underway into a viral video that appears to show officers beating a man during an arrest. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the latest on the fallout and a warning: the video you are about to see is disturbing.
Well, the man police were trying to arrest in that video, 27-year-old Randall Worcester, walked out of the county jail behind me, still visibly shaken by what he experienced. His attorney saying that he's thankful to be headed home. A violent arrest caught on camera.
This is bad.
Viewed more than 1 million times, the video appears to show officers in Mulberry, Arkansas, punching and kicking a man in the head and body repeatedly during a Sunday morning arrest, at one point slamming his head into the ground several times. The man seen pinned down here, 27-year-old Randall Worcester. Released on bond, he walked out of the county jail.
What would you like to see happen to the officers?
The officers, Crawford County Sheriff Deputies Zach King and Levi White, and Mulberry Police Officer Thel Riddle, have all been suspended or placed on leave, pending a state investigation prompted by the viral video. None of the officers involved responded to NBC's request for comment.
What that response was not consistent with the training that they receive.
Police say they had been searching for Worcester all morning after he allegedly made terroristic threats in a nearby town and spit on a store clerk. He's now facing more than half a dozen charges, including battery, assault, and resisting arrest.
Spitting on an individual went to someone being beaten with what looked like an inch of their life.
Worcester's attorney saying he was in part left with abrasions to his face and scrapes on his knees. It's unclear what happened before the 30-second clip was recorded.
The dash cam does bring to light other things that did happen there, that initiated, that wasn't caught on the citizens' camera.
The Arkansas State Police are leading the investigation into the officer's actions. The governor says that the FBI and DOJ are now also investigating.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.